at the end of it, even though I had little complaints here and there, the biggest problem I had was that going into it, there was no disclosure that this is the first part of a multi-part story. So you get to the end and the game is not over. And that was actually kind of infuriating. Hey, this is the Sword and the Pen Reflections. It's my casual alternative to that channel. So if you're new to this channel, I am a fencer and also a book editor, and I like to combine my interests whenever I can. But in a recent podcast, I was talking to Dr. Perlmutter about fight scenes, and I had to put in a bunch of clips from my favorite samurai movie of the last 10 years, Kenshin the Beginning. It's a standalone if you ever want to watch it. It's just got like the best, most intense and athletic fencing, well, samurai fencing scenes that I've ever seen on screen. And it got me in the mood for some more samurai stuff. And so when I was thinking about what am I gonna do to de-stress, these last couple of weeks have been kind of stressful, I was like, I'm gonna watch Last Samurai Standing. Like, this looks good, even though there was like this one moment in the trailer where the two guys were just carrying on way too long in their engagement and they were way too close to each other. I was like, I don't care, they're moving fast, it's a samurai death match, I'm gonna watch this. And so anyway, I went into this with my expectations for the action being at Kenshin the Beginning level. And so I watched the first 3 episodes, I was like, this is just not, it's not doing it for me. And it was for those little things, like they're way too close to each other, or the action is not filmed in a way that is the most aesthetically pleasing. And there were some times when I could tell that like the actor who plays the lead clearly has a background in martial arts. Like, you can tell there's like a confidence in the balance and the footwork that it's really hard to fake if you've just been training for a few months to get a basic understanding of the movements. Like, this guy obviously knows martial arts, but they weren't really showing that off very well all the time with his footwork, which, I mean, I guess maybe this is a martial artist thing, but like, to me, that's the most important. Like, wow, I'm impressed with how they're moving. And they were doing everything with blade work, and I wanted more footwork, I wanted more athleticism. But again, I think this is just stemming from me coming off of Kenshin the Beginning, which is just so athletic that my expectations were too high. But after the first 3 episodes, I was like, okay, I took a break for a couple days and then I came back to it and I said, all right, I'm not gonna come in expecting that. I'm just gonna enjoy it for what it is. And then I really did. Like, the fight scenes were great. There was actually some moments, because I watched this with my dad, and we got to the final episode, and I'm not going to give anything away, but there's a fight that goes on forever, and it ends up involving some fireworks, and we were just cracking up, but like in a good way. Not because it looked ridiculous, but because we were just thinking, I'll bet you that the producers and everybody was like, yes, and then there's going to be fireworks involved and it's going to be amazing. And it kind of gave that fun action vibe feel that, we used to go to the movies in the 90s and the early 2000s to see like the big summer blockbuster. It kind of had that feel to it, where anytime they were going to do something, they tried to make it really cool and action-packed, and it worked. I was really enjoying myself. Oddly enough, though, the variety in the type of sword work that they were using was kind of limited. I wanted more, and I was expecting more because at the very beginning of the story, it's a bunch of different martial artists. Like, most of them are probably samurai, but it's kind of an open call for anybody who's a martial artist, show up to this deathmatch game, except they don't know it's a deathmatch. Maybe I should give a little summary of what it's about. Like, I'm not spoiling anything. This is stuff you get from the trailer. Basically, there's a former samurai. This would be post-Boshin War, which is like when the samurai were essentially made, you're illegal now. You cannot be samurai. Your titles are being revoked. All your political power and everything, like, you're not allowed to work as a samurai anymore. So they don't have any means to make money, and then cholera breaks out, and our main guy, his family is sick, and so he is going to go and join this this martial arts competition that has a huge prize. So he goes there, and a ton of other martial artists show up, and the gates are closed, and they're sort of locked in, and then they're told, once you're told the rules of the game, you cannot leave, and like, that'll be the end of that. So he decides to stay, and it turns out it's a battle royale. And battle royale, the Japanese did it right the first time with battle royale. We get into the way that they did storytelling in that, and which was is actually superior to what we had in this. But then again, I have to like separate this from other movies and stories that I've read, because this is its own thing. But so they're in this death match. And the idea is everybody gets a tag around their neck, and you have to collect these tags, and then whoever makes it to the finish line of this race, so it's also a race, like they have to go through these cities where there's checkpoints. Whoever makes it to Tokyo with the correct number of tags gets this big prize. But in order to collect the tag, you have to kill the person who has it. And the way this is enforced is a little unbelievable. It is for me. It was hard for me to get past this in the first 3 episodes, and in the end I just like, whatever, I don't care. Just like, that's the rules. They've got snipers trained on everybody and who are tracking everybody. And if you remove your tag and throw it away, they'll count to 10, and if you don't have a tag on, they'll kill you. They'll snipe you. So that's how they're enforcing you cannot leave the game, which I'm like, just run as fast as you can off into the woods. What, they can't like run after you? Anyway, it's okay. We'll put that aside. So that's the story. And I thought that because it was at least 200 guys in the beginning in this, it's a temple where they meet at first. They're all so different in their styles of martial arts that I thought we were going to see a lot of variety, that's what I really like. I like to see, okay, we're going to see this guy who uses the spear versus this guy who uses a katana, or we're going to come across somebody with clubs, or, I thought we were going to see like a lot of variation like that. And even though people had different weapons, I didn't see a whole lot of difference in the choreography, which was slightly disappointing to me. The best match, I thought, and it was a standout for me, was there was an Ainu warrior. The Ainu are like the indigenous people from northern Japan and southern Russia, but they were there like before the Russians and the modern Japanese people. It is such a cool culture, though. You really need to look into the Ainu cultural reverence for bears. It is amazing. But he shows up and he's like a Legolas kind of character. He is shooting off arrows and he can curve them and stuff and fire them, rapid fire. Very cool. I liked his match against this other character the best because it just had the most variety. It changed things up. It was a shakeup to what we had seen established up until that point. And I wanted to see more of it, and then we didn't. We literally got one match with the two of them, and then I won't spoil it, but you don't see any more, and I wanted more. But so that was my complaint there, was the variety in style of choreography. I wanted more. You often saw people hacking their way through a group or standing there with another person who's standing there, and then a very detailed repetition of parries and blocks and thrusts that are parried and blocked and then reposted. You see this a lot, and it gets faster and faster and faster. This happened, I think, at least 3 times? I don't know. Either way, you see it in the trailer. Like, imagine that happening more frequently than it probably should. That annoyed me. But other than that, it was all fast. It was all, it felt like they're fighting for their lives, so I like that. You can see that the actors are really doing their own choreography. The girl's choreography annoyed me. She did nothing. Like, I was expecting her to be like almost a ninja-style fighter because she's smaller, and she even talks about that. She, at one point, is talking to another girl and says, you're never going to be stronger or faster than them. You're a girl, but you're going to have to find your own strength. And I was like, ooh, they're going to show that she's like wicked fast or something like that. And then they didn't. They just show her kicking people. So I was disappointed in that. I know I'm being complainy, but this is like my martial arts background coming in and just being nitpicky. It's still good action. Like, my dad loved it. My dad was like, this is great. I love this. I was like, okay, once I let go of that, I really enjoyed it. And probably the best thing about the action, though, so I have to say this is one thing they did really well, was the long cut. So I really, really appreciate a long cut because it means that they had the actors go through this long bit of choreography. You can't stop it. You've also got to figure out where to position the camera so that you're getting the best angles at different moments. And there were some impressive ones. There was at least, I think there was like one long cut in each episode. The very first shot of the whole show is a really long cut, like 4 minutes almost. It's very long, and it's an epic battle where you're following the main guy through the battlefield, and he's not just running around slashing guys. He goes up a hill, he goes down to kill the leader of the enemy, and then he's declared victory, and then all of a sudden cannon fire starts falling on him and all of his guys. Like, it's a lot. It's not a straight line of, this is just him doing the same thing over and over again for 4 minutes straight. There was variety in there. So I really like that. And that happens several times throughout the whole show. Like if I was going to praise this show and its action for one thing, that would be it. I love the long cuts. I love never taking the camera off of where the action is and yet having enough action going on to be able to keep me occupied and interested. It did that well. There were some moments in the writing that for me they were weak, but they weren't bad, if I can describe it that way. So our main guy, we know that he's entered the competition because his family is sick with cholera and his daughter just died from cholera. So now he's like, now I'm really desperate. And also he has PTSD from the war. He can't even draw his sword. So he gets to the death match and they're all in it and he sees there's a little girl there. I mean, she's not so little, but she's young and she's helpless. She's obviously not supposed to be there. And so he goes into fatherly sort of protective mode for her. And I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be good. We're going to see him overcoming his PTSD and his helplessness and finding himself again, protecting her, because this will be a direct correlation to his daughter who just passed away, that he was helpless to help because she was sick. He tried to sell his sword and couldn't. And by the time he came back to try to help her, she was already dead or she was dying. Anyway, so I thought that's what we were doing here. But for the first 2 episodes, the majority of the first 2 episodes, he still could not draw his sword. He would get into PTSD mode. And I'm going, okay, so the desire to help your daughter, to protect your daughter, which is what this girl represents, is not enough for you to overcome that. Well, what is going to be? And then when we get to the end of episode, I think it's episode 2, he finally does draw his sword, but it's out of anger. And it was anger at, there were some other guys who took their tags off. And then they're like, oh, what do you know? We can get out of here. And they were ready to take but then they get sniped right in front of him. And you see the game organizers or orchestrators come down to all right, we're taking care of the bodies. You guys move along. And he gets angry at that and kills one of the guys and then kills all of them. And I'm going, so it was anger that helped you to overcome your PTSD, which it does work. Like I said, these are not bad writing things. They're just not as good as they could have been. I think that the desire to protect the daughter, he should love his daughter more than he is suffering from the feeling of helplessness, which is what the result is of, the end of the Boshin War and all the samurai no longer have power. They're not allowed to do what they do best in order to make money. That's not as eternal a good as love for your daughter and a desire and the responsibility to protect your daughter, being able to take control of that again. So I really wanted his overcoming to be solely about, his overcoming his PTSD to be about his daughter, and it wasn't. But again, it's not bad to say, oh, it was actually him being angry that these guys get killed and they were helpless and, you guys are, basically he was complaining that you organizers, you just think that you're in control and we're helpless and whatever. And he gets pissed off at that and then kills all the guys. I just don't think that that's as good as he is overcome with the need to protect his daughter via this girl who represents his daughter. We also had some dead end stories that bothered me. I'm just going to give one spoiler away here because it happens early enough. It happens in the 2nd episode. We get a really cool character who, his family was a samurai family that was loyal to this lord. And after the Boshin War, he's out of work and now he's basically being rejected. His family is being rejected by this lord. And so he's upset about that and he wants to restore his family's place in the world. And so that's why he ends up joining this death game, not knowing it's a death game, but then getting there and discovering it is. He's very cool and collected. He kind of gives what was the name of the blue samurai guy in Samurai Champloo? Jean, I think it was, or Jin. I don't remember what his name was, but he's got that stoicism. And I was on board with his story. I liked it. He was always facing his enemies with dignity. And spoiler, here's the spoiler. He comes across this absolute animal, and they have this big epic battle, and I liked it. It got a little ridiculous at one point, but that doesn't matter. When I look back at it, that was like the least of my worries. But then he dies off screen. He gets beheaded off screen. I'm like, you built up, you gave us the backstory of this character. You showed that he had, a noble mindset, and he goes into this fight against this absolute animal, and I'm rooting for him, and it's a nice epic battle, but then you have him die off screen. We don't see him die, and he's dead because we see his head, so he's definitely dead. But I'm going, we built all of this up, and then we have this battle, and it's just over. It was a little disappointing. I get the feeling what they were trying to do was just show that this mindset is not going to win the game. But then why put so much into his character? Like he was a standout. His backstory was a standout for me. Maybe it was because he's one of the only other ones that wasn't like, it's all about cholera. It was a nice variety in the background. So that could be maybe why it stood out to me more. But one thing that, if you've ever read the book or watched the movie Battle Royale, which you should, it's great. It's a bunch of high schoolers put on an island and told they have to, it's basically PUBG. They all have to kill each other as the terrain gets smaller and smaller, or else a collar around their neck explodes. It's brutal, but I love it. What happens in that is you get these vignettes where they will go and look at one high school student and their backstory, and everything about their backstory informs how they behave during this game, how they fight, how they approach other people, how they die, or if they win. And it was really well thought out in that way. So when you get to these deaths, it feels like they really illustrated what was going on in their past. And I feel like that's what they were trying to do with this character in The Last Samurai Standing. But maybe it wasn't enough for me, or it felt like it was an incomplete story, or the fact that he died off screen. Why did he have to die off screen? I don't know. But anyway, it just left me very dissatisfied that particular moment. But that was maybe the worst offense there. For the main character, yeah, okay, I think I was getting at this. The focus of his story is also a little jumbled. So, we've got the family dying and need money for that, getting over the PTSD, which he apparently gets over with the whole killing all of those guys. So that happens in the second episode. Then in the third episode, was it the third episode or the fourth episode? I don't remember. But the most invested I became in him was when we get his training background. So he was part of 8 disciples of this one sword master. And the disciples are like brothers and sisters. They all get along. It's great. Everything is wonderful. They just love fighting and improving their own skills. Like they show them at this river, which how the hell were they doing any footwork in that river? That was the most unbelievable thing. I'm going, somebody is going to turn an ankle and die, but anyway, I don't care. But I was the most invested in that, but I had to throw away everything else, because if I didn't, then I'm going, okay, now we're adding this new element into the story. And even though I like that, it was a bit of a distraction from the previous stuff. It undistills, muddies. It's basically taking a more distilled focus for his story and saying, okay, now we're introducing something else. And I think they did that because they got the PTSD thing over with right away. And then it's like, what, defending the girl is not enough? I don't know. It's a little unfocused, but I know I'm being very complainy here. By the end of the series, so at the end of the third episode, I was like, I don't know. I could DNF this thing, do not finish or did not finish. I could do that and probably be fine with it. But I'm glad that I did finish it because it was fun. It was just a fun ride. I enjoyed it. It was especially fun to watch with my dad, with people who don't have a background in martial arts, because they were able to enjoy it so much just for what it was supposed to look like. And I was like, okay, I get it. This is fun. I really do like it. But yeah, there's a scene, it's in the trailer, and you see this combination of moves where the guys are this close to each other, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on, and it's faster and faster. They're not moving their feet. Nobody's coming in and out of distance, and it gets faster and faster. I mean, that's impressive, but it's impressive in the same way that the river dance guy would suddenly start doing the taps really, really fast and go so fast that you can't even imagine how their feet are making that move. It's not cool, this is an intense deathmatch battle. I'm just going okay, dance faster, dance faster, dance faster. So Anyway, but I enjoyed it. Like I said, I really love samurai sword fights. I love the action. I do wish that there were some things that were a little better. And then also at the end of this, it's not the end of the whole thing. It's not over. I do like the little twist that they did with, they've obviously got like these, not obvious, I mean, it's very much like the death game trope where you have the rich people who stand back and like watch the game play out and they're placing bets on who's going to win and stuff like that. That ends up being the rich people think this is what's going on, but it's not actually what's going on. I think by the third episode, I was like, this is so cliche. But then after that, it kind of said, actually, it's something else. And I was like, okay, I will give it that. That's more clever. But you get to the end of the final episode and it's like, they aren't even halfway to the finish line. And I'm going, for me, it's going to be a long wait. And I don't know if it's gotten me excited enough to be like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for the next one to come out. But I probably will watch it. I'll probably get my dad and like, hey, let's come over watch, the next half of Last Samurai Standing. I hope it doesn't carry on longer than a second half though. I do wish that would have been disclosed at the beginning because I was starting to get annoyed as we got closer and closer to episode 6. And I'm going, there's no way they're going to get to the finish line by the end of this show. So, but anyway, that's it. If you haven't seen The Last Samurai Standing, I give it a recommend. If you are a martial artist, there'll be things that annoy you, but don't let it take away from your ability to enjoy just fun summer action blockbuster feel sort of movie. It's going to feel a bit ridiculous, but it's going to be action-packed and still, for the most part, enjoyable. That's all I got. I enjoyed it. Hope you'd enjoy it. If you've seen it and you enjoyed it, let me know about it in the comments. Otherwise, please like, subscribe, and comment, even if it's just with an emoji. It does help to boost this video in the algorithm. Also, you can do a thing called hyping, which is now important. YouTube constantly changes how they promote videos, and it's really tough to keep up with, but apparently this is now a thing that you have to do to like get your video seen by people. So if you have the option, thank you. Otherwise, if you've got the means and you're feeling generous, check out my Patreon, Ko-fi, or hit the money heart thanks button down below. You can become a subscriber. You can leave me a one-time tip. I appreciate anything. That's it. Be good to yourself.